Hello and welcome to TV Ed. I'm Justin Shortall. Well, having a reasonable choice of subjects may not be a problem for students in larger metropolitan schools. For those students in isolated centres and smaller schools, the choice of subjects can often be quite limited, particularly at senior levels. Well, now all that is set to change, as new communication technologies are being adapted to provide innovative solutions to the educational barriers of distance. With me is Neil Elliott, the officer in charge of the Bendigo Education Resource Centre. Neil, I wonder if we could begin by having an explanation, if you would, of the project that you've been involved in.
Yes, Justin. There's been a resource agreement set up between our government, the Victorian government, and the Commonwealth government. The sole purpose of looking at ways we can increase the range of subjects available at Year 11 and 12, and investigating ways that perhaps technology can help us do that.
Mm-hmm. And one of the sorts of technology we've got here is a thing called a tech pack, I believe. Is that right?
Yes, that's right, Justin. I've brought with me Warwick Matthews from Owen High School to explain a bit more about the tech packs to you.
Well, thanks for joining us, Warwick. Yeah. Now, these are used in the smaller schools. Why is it necessary to have these portable packs?
Okay, small schools can't afford to have these sort of resources on each school lying idle, and so sharing them is a much more economical way of introducing subjects like this where you have a large amount of capital equipment.
Mm-hmm. Well, can you tell us a little bit about this one? This looks like a rather large toolbox, but with some rather special equipment.
Okay, this is a tech pack to teach electronics. It contains student materials, which a student can work through at their own pace, and it also contains equipment to actually make circuits, soldering irons to solder, and also things like multimeters and breadboards for testing and for prototyping circuits.
And how many students would work on this particular pack?
Okay, this particular pack, you have 2 students working on that, and you have as many packs as you need to cater for your class size.
And we've got another example here. What's this one?
Okay, that's a tech pack in small engines. It contains obviously a small engine, as well as that the tools necessary to strip the motor down and build it up again, and also a manual and a student workbook for our students to work their way through.
And what sort of reaction have you had to these?
Oh, very enthusiastic. The students like the subjects, and they're very keen and interested to do them, and we're fairly sure that they'll help to retain those students at school.
Now, are these kept in one location at one particular school and then issued from that like a library, or how does it work?
Okay. When a school is actually teaching the subject, they obviously have all the tech packs. At the end of that term, say, or a semester, those tech packs are returned to a central school where they're checked over to make sure the components are quite, they're all there, that nothing's been broken, that sort of thing. And then a couple of days later, they can be shipped out again to the next school.
So it's a big saving in cost and broadening the curriculum.
Yeah, considerable. Yes.
Terrific, Warwick. Well, okay. We'll move on now from the tech packs to the communications technology itself, and there's a massive quantity of electronic gear here.
The tech packs we looked at just then looked at sharing practical resources, equipment and so on. But another shortfall, if you like, in our isolated schools is obviously the number of teachers we can put in each school. Using this sort of equipment in front of us, the communications gear, the teachers, first of all in the Mallee, believed that they could teach students in front of them and students at a remote location if they had 3 sort of criteria that they could use to teach by. And one was an audio link with their students, one was a document link, and one was a visual link of some sort. And this is what we have in front of us now. So,
right. Well, who's Warwick? Let's work out who he is.
Right, well,
we know he's Warwick.
Let's say for now, Warwick's a teacher at Owen High School.
Right.
And here we have Jim, 400 k's away at Bendigo. And Jim's the student.
We can see how technology shortens distance.
My word, it does.
Okay. Well, how do they actually speak to each other?
Right, to begin the lesson, Warwick just picks up the telephone, just like any other telephone, dials the location he's going to link into.
Hello, Jim.
It just works like a normal telephone. At that point, they both push one button on their duct terminals, their conferencing terminals. And from that point on, the voices are picked up by microphones, and the other person is heard using the loudspeakers, giving them hands-free operation, and also the possibility of more than one person being at each location.
Right, so they've got contact by the microphones. They can speak to each other. But, I mean, a teacher might want to collect some homework or issue some notes. The document link, how does that work?
That's right. To replace the ability that the teacher had to walk in and give out his A-class notes at the beginning of the lesson, we've turned to fax machines to provide a solution to this. And Warwick now is just sending what might be a set of class notes onto Jim in Bendigo. A fax machine is a bit like a photocopier, in that you put the piece of paper in the machine, and instead of coming out the back of your machine, it comes out the back of the machine that you've just dialed up via the normal telephone system.
The fax, of course, have been used extensively by business and industry, but schools have been slow to explore its use, I'd imagine.
Well, that's right, Justin. There hasn't really been a great deal of need. Most of these schools have been self-sufficient within their own location, but here we have a case of the schools cooperating and joining together to share resources. You can see there the quality is quite satisfactory for the locations.
Excellent.
And with the trials we've done in a mode called a detail mode, it can even handle graphs and charts and that sort of thing as well.
It's a bit of a concern to me, though, that you have all this expensive equipment. Wouldn't it be cheaper to actually put in a couple of extra teachers into these schools that are understaffed or that can't provide the range of subjects?
Yes, well, initially you might think that, but take the Mallee cluster, for example, which is one of the sort of the pioneering clusters in the state. And looking at Murrayville High School, where they might only perhaps have between 8 and 12 students there in any one year. And by the time they all choose different subjects, there's many times where you have one teacher, one student. Now, to put a teacher for every subject in each of those schools to only teach one student might be desirable but uneconomical. And so using this equipment, that one teacher can be there and also impart their knowledge to the students at the other schools linked into this system. And of course later on, perhaps in the next hour of the day, it might be another school that the lesson emanates from.
Right, well I can see we've got, the schools have got what they want. They've got speech, contact with each other. They've got documents that they can send each other, and they have a visual link. But it's not quite face-to-face teaching, is it?
No, it's not, Justin. To provide actual cameras like we have at the moment, giving full video pictures was just too cost prohibitive. And so we looked at an alternative and came down on the use of a Macintosh computer, which we have here in front of us. Mm-hmm. The visual link, if you like, comprises the Macintosh computer, obviously its keyboard and the mouse. That's like many schools have been using Macintoshes for other purposes anyway. A modem to link the whole system, again at this stage anyway, through the telecom lines. And the use of a gadget called a graphics tablet. Which
I'm sorry, you've lost me.
I thought we might have. It's a page that a person can write on, just with a normal pen. The image comes out on their page in front of them, but at the same time it's connected to the computer and it comes out on the screen. You can see what Warwick's writing on there now is coming up onto the screen.
Uh-huh.
With the software we're using, which happens to be a world first, what appears on Warwick's screen also appears on Jim's screen at the same time, virtually, in Bendigo. And then, to add to that again, Jim can also interact back to Warwick's screen. What he types on his machine, or writes if he wishes to on his screen, appears back on Warwick's machine.
Warwick's just corrected his work instantaneously and he's got it right.
Probably a spelling mistake, was it? Or?
No, he's got the right answer. Well, you've answered all their questions. They've got everything.
Well, the trials we've done so far indicate that we have a workable system here. In fact, the visual link perhaps makes the students concentrate more on the subject in front of them than the full video that we're used to in the form of TV.
But I understand this box over here that we're about to see actually provides some teacher face-to-face, or the next best thing.
Well, that's right. There are times when the teacher needs to speak to his students face-to-face or provide more documented type material in the form of perhaps photographs or text. This booth here that Gary's working on at the moment is a way to solving that problem, in that a teacher with very little prior knowledge of how to use video gear and having any technicians running around can produce a video that shows their face or the document, text, or perhaps even things like a test tube in a chemistry experiment. That video is then packaged and sent to the location that's going to take the lesson perhaps later in the week, and can then be referred to in the communications group we've just been looking at.
And you've adapted this from an idea from South Australia?
Yes, it was developed originally in South Australia, the original concept, but in the interim time there's been a few developments made in video cameras, which has allowed us to get a far sharper image on the screen than was previously possible.
Well, all this technology has been around. You've got video cameras and you've used existing technology, but I'd imagine that adapting it for educational use would have taken a fair bit of research and development.
project, I suppose, has been going about 18 months now, Justin, and in that time, of course, the schools had to get together and see that if they were going to broaden the curriculum, what their downfalls were. And beyond that, then we had to look at the various forms of technologies that perhaps may meet some of the solutions or the problems that they'd come across.
Right, so let me see if I can summarise this. You've got a cluster of schools, the smaller schools, coming together, deciding that they wanted various curriculum expansions to take place.
That's right.
You've provided them with technology which is helping them to achieve that, and broadening the curriculum and increasing the retention rate at senior levels in their schools.
Yes, that's right, Justin. And the beauty of it, I think, has been the cooperation that's been developing amongst all our small schools right across the state. And indeed, this interactive software places a great deal of importance on that cooperation between the schools. It's not a case of perhaps the feared technology where Big Brother beams in a signal and we all sit up and listen, but in actual fact, the schools interact with each other and building each other up by the fact they're cooperating with each other.
Thanks, Neil.
Thanks, Justin.
I've been talking today to Neil Elliott, officer in charge of the Bendigo Education Centre. And if you'd like to know more about distance education in Victorian schools, you can contact these phone numbers. But from me for now, and from TV Ed, it's bye-bye.